All right, guys, welcome back to this week's episode of Firepunk Friday. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us and listening to or watching the content. But for those of you that can't watch it in video form and podcast form is easier, it is available on Spotify and other streaming services as well in podcast form. So thanks again for everybody for joining us this week. And been a crazy week as always. It seems like when we have the pleasure of having a 4-day weekend with a Monday off, you always pay for it a little bit that next week because you get 4 days of work crammed into, or you get 5 days of work crammed into 4 days. And I guess it makes the week go fast, and should never complain about having too much work, but definitely pretty busy around here. Really enjoyed the weekend last weekend with Labor Day weekend. Was able to kind of kick back a little bit and spent some time with my wife's family. My in-laws were in, along with a couple of the cousins, and so we had a house full of family and just really kind of kicked back more than we do some weekends and cooked a lot of food. And I always enjoy that side of it. We smoked some wings and made some ribs and cooked up some fresh halibut that we got from Alaska, and cooked up a bunch of pizzas Monday. So that was a good time. Also enjoyed watching the U.S. Nationals. We went to that as a family a couple years back, and the boys kind of take interest in it now that they've seen the cars up close. And if you haven't ever experienced nitro, I highly recommend it. It's definitely unlike about anything else you'll ever hear. It's insanely loud, and you feel it probably as much as you hear it. And just the speed of those cars is almost impossible to describe or even capture on TV, because it's really incredible to watch. But really a good weekend from U.S. National standpoint. I think they had over 900 some competitors there racing, and I think 45 nitro entries on the ground, which is a lot more nitro-powered vehicles than they've had at a race in quite some time. So seems like they're coming back pretty strong after everything being pulled back during the pandemic. But then to top it all off, Antron Brown won. I'm a big fan of him. Antron actually was a large advocate for the whole racing industry this week. I think it was yesterday that he was in front of Congress, and he was promoting the RPM Act and urging them to pass that to protect our race cars. I know you guys all know about the pressure that the EPA has been putting on everyone, and some of that seems to be based on some misconceptions and maybe even some outright lies, and really seems like it's going to be a serious threat to the race car industry as a whole. So anytime that anyone like Antron can go in front of Congress and just really plead our case, I guess, I think the RPM Act can be a pretty big deal. So it was really cool that he was able to do that. Was glad to see him win last weekend. Ron Capps was another guy I was glad to see. Those Ron Capps and Antron both went out on their own this year, our new car owner. So it was really good to see those guys getting wins. And it helps too that they're some of my favorite drivers. So I had a lot of fun watching that. And then this week getting back into the swing of things. I forgot as well, the other cool thing about last Saturday was the Buckeyes are back in action playing football, and they took care of business against Notre Dame. So go Bucks, and glad to see that they were able to keep Notre Dame in their place, although maybe it wasn't quite the blowout we were hoping for. But anyhow, I just had to talk my little bit of football while I could. But so for this week's episode, we talked to Ben Shady last week following Shadday Diesel Extravaganza. Ben had a great weekend. We always enjoy competing against Ben, so it was a little bit weird being there and not having an entry for Pro Mod, but we were really glad to see Ben do as well as he did. His car really started showing some headways and some promise back at Indy. He had clicked off a couple of low 420 passes and then ended up running into some head gasket issues that shut their weekend down early, but he came into Shadday not missing a beat, and I think they clicked off a low 20 pretty much first pass off the trailer, and then they built on it from there and were able to go 4:16 and to claim the Pro Mod ET record at ODSS. So congrats to them, and had a good conversation with Ben. Always enjoy chatting with him. Hopefully you guys can enjoy our conversation and learn something from it. Shadday, daddy of Pro Mod, how are we doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
No, I just, had to get off on the right foot, but definitely had a good weekend for you, a long time coming, and, happy to see progress. And yeah, it definitely not like we enjoy getting our records beaten, but we do enjoy seeing, everybody pushing each other. So congrats, and figured we'd talk about the weekend a bit.
Okay, sounds good.
I guess, coming into the year, you guys were, I would say, somewhat stuck in the 30s. You knew you could get a 30 out of the car, and you guys did that pretty consistently. But it seemed like you were kind of up against one of those brick walls that it seems like we all run into at times. It just, I don't know, it's just hard to knock that next barrier down, and then something clicks, and it seems like all of a sudden, I don't know if easy button is quite fair, but yet once it clicks, it really jumps to the next level. So tell me a little bit kind of about the progression of the year, and maybe, I don't know if you have one certain thing that you think, kind of took you over the top and helped you guys, move on into pushing that ET down quicker.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. It's like once you get to a certain point, and you have in your head that you can't try or do anything else because this is what should work. And then you say, if you go out and run that 30, and then all the data shows you that you should just add a little bit more power or change your shift strategy or lockup, and it should just magically go that next number. It doesn't work that way. So you get to where you're running that same number, and then you go to race somebody, you have to put the old reliable tune up in that's going to go down the track. But we kind of just stepped back, and we were always talking about, trying to run the car more like a gas car, but we weren't actually doing it. Mm-hmm. So, Tony and I kind of scratched up a game plan, and we started changing stuff, rear gear and converter changes. We had to do something, because it's like if you look up the definition of insanity, I think our name was underneath there for a while. So we changed up a bunch of stuff, and I think we're on the right path. Even now, I'm trying to stay. I was speaking with Levon earlier today, trying to stay more consistent and make smaller changes to actually see the change on paper work. So in our last 11 passes, we've ran 8 20s, 1 teen, and 2 40s, whether we shook the tires or, something didn't happen. So to me, that's a huge victory. Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind that the 20 tune-up that all came together at UCC, I could put it in the car right now at about any track, and it's going to do it again. So the repeatable data, the repeatable runs is something that I'm super proud of.
Yeah, no, that makes a world of a difference. I mean, if you're not going down the track with clean runs, it's really hard to learn stuff from it. There's always some things you can learn from, a flubbed run or whatever, but there's nothing quite like being able to analyze the data from, an A to B pass. And yeah, consistency, that's a big deal. I know. Sometimes you want to keep swinging for the fence, and you want to hit that home run. I know we have that disease quite a bit, and in the long run, you end up hurting yourself more because when you're constantly scrubbing the tires, or things aren't going right, you're not learning anything to progress. And testing plays a big factor in that as well. I know none of us probably get out testing as much as we would like, but I think
it's really fun to see in the Pro Mod class, we're all getting to the point where parts are somewhat more reliable. Like we still all have our issues that we fight through, but we're having enough more parts reliability that we can actually focus on some racing and, worrying about the entire package of the race car, whether it's suspension or rear gear or converter or, whatever, just analyzing data and going from there. So I think that definitely, makes a big difference in being able to advance. So
yeah, I'm with you on that. Like when you go out and you go for the home run pass, not only did you not get down the track, possibly lost, but you don't have anything to take home with you either. So it is really, I'd rather go a little bit slower and have that 4 seconds of data to build on than to go out and just shake the tires. Like we'll say that's old Ben. We'll say that's old Ben. I'm trying to turn over a new leaf.
Yeah. No, I just I had a memory pop up. I think it was from 3 years ago when we were. I want to say it would have been the first year that Shide would have been at Wagler's, and we ran a 427 that weekend. And I remember like that was a pretty big deal. I think we ran some back-to-back 20s, and just looking at, I mean, that was 3 years ago, and I mean, I'm too dumb. No, I shouldn't say that, but how hard it is to knock a tenth off. Like, I mean, it wasn't till I think late last year that we went 18, and this year you went 16, and it just, man, it just seems like if it's not one thing, it's another that kind of keeps us from progressing at the speed that we would like. And then we all have these, things called life that get in the way from playing as much as we'd like. But yeah, kind of the fun of it all, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And once you get to that number, you get all excited for the very next round. You're like, it ought to do this, ought to do that. Yeah. And then you go out and kick the tires, or it goes slower and you're like, oh man, like it'll deflate everything, all the momentum you have going on.
Right. Yeah. So you guys started the weekend with, what was it, a low 20?
It was a 20 with an 8.
Okay. Gotcha.
Which was the exact same tune-up that at Indianapolis at UCC went a 24. Okay. That's kind of I'm gonna call that my Q1, and let's make sure this thing's healthy.
Yeah. That's your home base. That's where you can start there, and yep. Yeah. Yep, that's right. What changes did you make in the tune-up to go to the 16 then? Did you pick it up on the, on the 60 foot, or did you pick it up on the big end, or you just pick some flat spots on the G meter?
The main change was the 60 foot. We added 25 RPMs of hit, not necessarily more power, but a little bit more inertia there to leave. And then I just kind of went through the G meter and dabbled some power, some night weather nitrous or fuel on some of the bellies that we had in the G meter. And to me, it was a super safe change. But it was something that I knew that was going to pick it up as long as it performed the way it was going in my head.
Yeah.
Which always doesn't happen.
Isn't it funny how often we can pick things on the data and be like, here, I know I can do this. And then you're like, well, shucks, that didn't work. But then, it makes it even that much more rewarding when you can make a small change like that and it picks up that, even bigger number than what you anticipated. Like, I know when we were down radial tire racing, actually, I think the pass that we ended up going 399 on, I think we had gone like 411 the pass before, and Levon made what he thought was a very small change. Like, we might pick up a little bit, and like that was a difference in a tenth. And it's just funny how sometimes things like that click, and the next time you're like, well, I missed that one. But
right.
Yeah, I guess it's why we do it on the track and not on paper.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot of it. Like, and you might make something where you just kind of want to test yourself. Like, let's verify that this pass will do it again before we try to move forward with something better. And then you go out there and you knock a tenth off of it and you didn't change anything. Maybe the car or truck left a little easier, maybe something changed just driver wise. And those are the ones that are rewarding, and you don't change anything and you still get a tenth.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how you feel about it, but I know for us, like, we've paid a lot more attention to the starting line, and I don't even know that 60 foot is even fair. Like, I'm gonna say maybe even more microscopic than that. Maybe we're talking like the first 10 to 15 feet, and what the tire does coming right out of the hole really is going to make a big difference for how your entire run ends up. It's amazing when you watch slow-mo videos, how often you'll get like a little bit of a dead hook at the beginning or something, and it really doesn't show its face until you put power to it at 80 feet, but the tire was already out of shape. And so now when you put tire to it, it goes into tire, or when you put power to it, it goes into tire shake. So, man, wheel speed, I think, is everything, at least in my book. Would you agree with that?
I do, and it's like what you mentioned, the slow mo videos. Like there's some. I was actually talking to a shock guy today. I had mentioned sending him some of my shock data, and he said, "Can you just send me a video?" And I didn't want to sound redneck like that, but I would almost rather in the first 3 to 5 tenths of the run, iPhone or a smartphone slow mo video will actually show you a lot
Yeah.
that, in my opinion, won't show you on the data.
No, I would agree
Um,
with that.
so how the tire looks, did it stick it? Did it?
Right.
Because seem like a lot of the diesel problem is you stick the tire and then you get a bunch of power and then you just send it up
Yeah.
in smoke.
Right.
So, and that's to me, it's hard to look at data and tell that.
Right. Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes from our tall rear gears and our RPM limit stuff makes it a lot harder for us to get as short of a first gear as what we would like. And so therefore it's harder to control the tire. Like if we actually get on top of the tire, it's really easy to just blow it off completely. Or if you dead hook it, well, then you're going to get into tire shake when you turn lockup on or put power to it. But I know you said earlier you had done a gear change and a converter change. I mean, you guys made a pretty big converter change in the off season, if I'm correct.
Yep.
Tell everybody a little bit, kind of your thoughts on all of that and how that all works together. Like, I guess what you like about, or yeah, what made everything work together so well.
Okay. So I had the Suncoast Pro Torque model in it, which is a 12-inch converter. Major changes, obviously, a 12-inch to a 10-inch. The 12-inch converter has three. Mine has three lockup clutches, where the 10-inch has six. So surface area for surface area, you don't lose any there. But then one of the major changes is that the 10-inch converter is 37 pounds lighter from the 12. There is a like I didn't sell my 12-inch converter. I think there's a place for it, just not right now. Once I get some stator options, and I think that 12-inch converter will probably be where I land back. But until we can get some different stator options, I'm going to stay with this 10-inch converter. So I was, we were wanting to run it more like a gas car. So an RPM range, starting line ratio. And at first it didn't make much sense. It makes sense to say we're going to run it like a gas car, but to then look at a tight RPM window of a gasoline engine. So that's when I added the larger turbo, trying to move my whole power curve to the right. We're shifting the car at 6,000 right now, which is higher than I've ever shifted any diesel. So not only does that help get us away from torque, but that also helps our converter hydraulic couple
Be more efficient. Yeah.
Get more efficient because of the RPM.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know how many people understand a converter, but I guess there's two sections to these converters. There's the lockup side of it, which is the clutches themselves. And that only comes into play, at whatever, a second and a half or 2 seconds whenever you decide to lock it up. So really the back half of the track. But the front half of the track, we're strictly relying on fluid couple. And that's where the different stators and the different diameters of the converter can make such a big difference. So with your car being on the light end of what most anybody does in the diesel world, I feel like it's why you can make the 10-inch work. You don't have as much weight to move, but it does allow, at low RPMs, it's allowing the engine to accelerate a lot faster. without completely trying to blow the tire off. And that's one of the things we learned in radial tire racing, and that's how everybody races a gas car. Is you have to let the engine accelerate quickly out of the hole. Like if your wheel speed is accelerating with your engine, most likely your converter's too tight, and that's when you're going to get into wheel speed problems. And from my understanding, you can actually accelerate quicker by letting the converter catch up rather than just going on engine acceleration, if that makes sense. So, would you agree with that?
I do, and that was part of our thought process on running it like a gas car, because if you have a torque converter for a reason, it multiplies torque. So if you only let X amount of hydraulic torque to the rear tire, that's your slipping device. So no matter when you let go of the trans brake, no matter really if I add power to my car right now, the really only thing it'll do is it's going to slip the converter more. And it should still go down the track. Should
Right.
be in keyword.
Yeah.
So
well, and I think, a little bit jumping gears, but same example of the torque converter thing. Like we had a new billet torque converter in Justin's truck this weekend, and we showed up guessing on the stator, and after this weekend, I really feel like that converter being too tight is probably a good bit of what we're fighting in keeping traction in the middle of the track. Just simply, there's not enough of a fuse there. When that engine really wants to make power, it's putting it all to the tires, and the tires don't stand a chance. Right. So I think a torque converter was a very overlooked thing in the diesel world. Yes, we all paid attention to it as far as being able to spool turbos. But aside from that, I think we kind of thought if we could spool a turbo, you want as tight a turbo or as tight a stator as you could get. And I think we really kind of shot ourselves in the foot with that mentality. And it wasn't until we started kind of paying attention to how the mainstream guys do it till we started making some progress. So I think slowly but surely we're getting there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're all kind of a little bit, slow to learn and thick-headed and some things like that sometimes, but we'll get there eventually. So yeah. So how many years have you had the car now? And yeah.
So this would be this would be the third year.
Season. Okay.
Yeah, third season. The first one was kind of a half season because of the China virus. But this would be season 2 full season, so 2.5 seasons.
Yeah, gotcha. No, that's good. It was crazy to see Johnny come out this weekend and with less than 20 passes on the car go a 421. So that was really cool. And I think some of that, I don't want to take anything away from them because those guys put a lot of hard work and thought into everything.
Oh, for sure.
But, I definitely think they benefited somewhat from, having a recipe to go off of. And,
sure.
We're all starting to stick our heads together some and bounce ideas off of each other. So I'm sure that helped. But I really enjoy watching those guys. They have a lot of guys that enjoy thinking deep on race cars, and it seems like they've always got ideas flying around. And
there's a lot of energy out of that camp. Those guys got a lot of energy.
Yeah, I think some of them are a little bit more not scared of work than I might be sometimes. But no, that was. Friday afternoon was pretty awesome right up until Johnny's car went in the sand. That was really scary, with everything that had happened at Crossville and stuff. But, really glad to see that Johnny's okay. And it would appear like the car isn't in too terrible shape. Like they've got some work to do, but I think it appears fixable from early analysis. So.
Right. No, you mentioned them coming out. They came out swinging, and it's like any other sport. I think we all benefit off of each other, kind because I remember times, that if I was struggling with even my truck or the car, I'd be watching the S10 slow mo, like, why? How are these guys getting down here? Like we're missing something here. And
Yeah.
and honestly, Levon, and even you, Larson, like I feel like that I can ask you guys any questions and you're going to answer me honestly, and I do the same thing as well.
Yeah.
So Johnny, he got some of the stuff that we tried early that didn't work. He's already scratched that. He
Right.
doesn't have 5 or 10 test passes with something that doesn't work. But you can't take him. That's just how things go.
Right.
And I think what they did was awesome. And I mean, they're going to be a contender for sure.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it makes a big difference. They have enough guys, or there's enough of us around that have done it. Like we at least have a baseline recipe that if somebody's, building a new car, you kind of know where to start. And, the fact that, they were able to have Tony help them on the chassis, and, they've got a Wagler power plant and, a lot of the same components that you've used, but yet when you look at you two guys' cars beside each other, it definitely has a stainless diesel flair to it.
Oh yeah.
Johnny has his ideas, and really cool, like with the side pipes, and then the way they did the engine sticking out of the hood. That was pretty cool. I'm
Right.
typically not much one that likes things sticking out of the hood, but I thought that worked out pretty neat.
Yeah, it turned out well. I think he put a nice twist on it, and it's a very, very beautiful car. And there's no doubt in my mind that it's going to come back out and be just as beautiful, if not more, and going to be a handful to deal with.
Yeah. So, what do you guys have on your plate for the rest of the year? Do you have much more racing in mind, or what? Yeah, what are you guys looking to do?
We're kind of on the fence about Rudy's. I think that I think we'll probably end up going. That's not 100%, but we might go, and then maybe try to hit a No Prep Kings before the season ends, and of course, try to get some testing in when we can.
Right. Yeah, no Prep Kings would be a ton of fun. I know when it was here in Columbus, we had a ball with it. It's definitely a little bit different, and racing that outlaw open class, whatever, you sit around for a good bit of the weekend before you get to do much of anything. But
Right.
and it's hope you have your ducks in a row, because there's no test hits and there's no anything of that sort. It's just 1, 2, 3, go. And
Right.
but man, the energy that's around in those events is just outstanding. Like I mean, there's fans everywhere, and the stands are full, and it really is a lot of fun to watch and see what they do with that brand of racing.
Yeah, it's we went to the Outlaw Armageddon I've not been with the car, but we went with the truck, and I think there was like 25,000 people there, and it's just it's a rush to race in front of that many people, and there's a guy out there dropping arms, like it's everything that you see on television.
Right.
So it's really, the atmosphere is cool. You can walk up and talk to every one of these guys, and everybody was really nice and cool to talk to. So it was a really cool event.
Yeah. Nope, that's a ton of fun. You have a specific one that's close by you that you were looking at going, or don't know for sure
I think
yet?
there's one coming up in Norwalk
Yeah,
unless I think that's the one that we would probably go
okay.
to.
Yeah, that would make sense. I think that's in September sometime, if I remember right. But
It is,
I mean,
as long as it doesn't overlap, I guess, would be
yeah,
the only concern. I haven't looked at the date
Yeah.
just yet.
right. Which I don't think Rudy's is until, like, I believe that's 1st of October. So I think you'd be
Last week
clear.
of September, I
Is it
believe.
last week of September? Okay.
Yeah, it might run into October 1st. Though.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. No, I've heard a lot of good things about Rockingham. That I think should be a lot of fun. I'm not quite exactly thrilled about having to do the Rudy's drive and then adding an hour and a half to the back of that yet. The mountains out east are not my favorite thing, but I guess it's all a part of it.
I guess it's an hour and a half further than Piedmont is what you're saying.
Yeah, roughly something like that. So I believe we drive right past Piedmont from, at least we would. I don't know if that would change for you. Yeah, you might take a little bit of a different route than we do. I don't know. Tell me a little bit about the guys that support you, and anybody you might want to thank, and we'll let you go about your day.
Okay. Um, Obviously, my business, Done Right Diesel Parts, is the main sponsor of the car. Then we have Jeremy Wagler and his guys. They handle all our engine stuff. They do us an awesome job. Jeremy's put years back on my life just by the how much energy he has to bring to offer to us, and he's a true blessing to have on our in our corner for sure. And then we have Tony Durhammer. He does all the chassis work, and he comes to the events and helps deal or dial in all the chassis while I'm doing the engine stuff. Of course, my guys that come with me as well. Most of the time, it's Brandon Grimmett and Lee Merrick. Every once in a while, some of the other shop guys come with us, but all of them help regardless of whether they're there or not. Then we have Carl Rossler. He handles the transmission work, and we just knock on wood. We don't have transmission problems, which is, you understand.
Yeah,
That's a big thing
deal.
to say.
Yep.
That's a huge thing to say. I don't think I'm forgetting anybody. I think that's pretty much.
Yeah.
Can you think of anybody? I don't want to leave anybody out.
SNS.
Always SNS. There you go. My gosh. Yeah. Luke, Andrew, all the boys. Andre.
Yeah.
Andre was at Shadday all weekend with me, and we were messing around trying to get some more fuel rail pressure control dialed in, and they do an awesome job. He set up all the Motec. But I think that's pretty much it. That's my group. So
I found out this weekend that turns out Justin's not too half shabby at making some ribeyes as well. So
he's a cook.
Had some pretty good ribeyes and some really good mac and cheese over at the pits there Friday night or one of those nights. I can't remember. It all runs together, but
right. But he's a very good cook for sure.
Yeah. No, I was going to ask you, and I kind of forgot. Tell everybody a little bit about your business, like what all you guys do, and how people can get a hold of parts from you guys.
Okay. So about it'd be a little over 2.5 years ago, we kind of changed our way of things where we're doing a lot of performance work and dyno and all that. And we kind of changed gears to where now I buy 2003 to we've even tore apart a 2022 truck already. Dodge Ram stuff is what we focus on. Parting out, complete engines, transmissions. We've done some Ford and Chevrolet stuff, but that's not necessarily our focal point. We stay pretty much zoned in on the 03 and current Dodge parts. Our new website is done. It's not fully launched to the public just yet, but there's going to be it should be very easy to navigate through the website it'll be a live inventory. But for now, it's either we have an eBay store that has every bit of our inventory on, and then obviously you can call the shop or follow our page. And we're doing some better things on trying to keep the page updated. But the website's going to be pretty gnarly. I think it's going to be pretty cool.
No, that's pretty cool. Definitely, it's handy. I know if there's seems like in the world of part shortages everywhere, definitely the used market is very handy. And more than once have we called you guys up and, you got us out of a pickle or saved us a couple bucks on a part here or there. But so check them out on eBay for now. And then sounds like in the near future, you'll have, your website live, and Brandon and the guys at the shop are more than helpful as well if you give them a call. So very good.
Yeah, they do a wonderful job. And one more thing I want to say about that is so if you buy an engine from us or a transmission or anything, we price things with no core charge. So say if you got a guy that's got a hole in the block or something, we try to be handy on that kind of stuff. If you want to turn in a core, we'll take some money off, but all of our stuff is priced with no core charge. So, I would think that would be worth something.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I don't know if you want to tell people this right away or not, because it probably is going to make you actually do it. But I know you guys are buying a transmission dyno we had sitting around here that we haven't been using. And Levon was telling me how you want it because you want to be able to put 68 RFEs, that you pull out of trucks. You want to be able to verify that they all work. So that'll be really cool once you get that up and running to where you can have, they're not just takeout transmissions that you don't know anything about. You can at least know that they function properly and everything works the way it needs to. So that'll be pretty neat once you get that up and working.
Right. Yeah, we're just trying to make it, I was never a guy that would buy any used parts anyway. So this is almost a hypocrite thing for me, but I'm trying to make it so it's because there is a place and a time for a used part. And if we're going with the trans cart, we're going to do the same thing as the engine. We're going to have it to where we can run an engine and get it up to temperature and record some data and print off a sheet to hand to the customer just for more of a peace of mind than anything.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That adds peace of mind and adds value to everything. And definitely when you get, running engines or supposedly good transmissions from a junkyard, you always kind of hold your breath until you know it works. So
right.
Yeah. Well, good. I also sounds like there's maybe some birthday wishes in order. I heard there was a last minute birthday lunch for you today. So happy birthday! Is that today?
It is today.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
No. I'm sure
Thank
you're
you.
like, I don't know, 35 years young or something like that, right?
39 today.
39. There you go. The next
My
one's
wife
the
said,
big one.
you feel older? And I said, yes, I do.
Well, good stuff.
Appreciate
All right.
that.
Well, I will let you enjoy the rest of your birthday then, and do appreciate you chatting with us, and have a good one.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. We'll see you.